Welcome to Dancin Moon Songcast. I'm Scott Simpson, casting from Dancin Moon Studio in Spearfish Canyon on the north end of the Black Hills of South Dakota, right on the banks of the Spearfish Creek. If you'd like to follow along, you can download a free PDF from my lyric book from scottsimpsonmusic.com/lyrics, and of course you can find links to all my music there as well. So let's get casting and find out what song we're going to talk about this time. This is our final in our 12-episode series on songs from Keys to My Head, my album that came out in January of 2021. And so we'll be talking about the song that was written earliest of all the songs on this album. It was written during a retreat a couple of years earlier. The title of that song is "The Promise of Being Filled." That's the final song on the album. So we'll give that a listen and then chat about it on the other side. All alone is not alone anymore. Once you make peace with yourself, darkness is not a loss of sight, nor being emptied a loss of wealth. These snowy hills will be emptied in the spring. This cutting wind fallen still. I will relinquish this white-knuckled hold. Open up the promise of being filled. Silence has a language no tongue could ever speak. It holds a wisdom gentle to the ear. All the chasing, all the grasping, all the noise, they only awaken all the fear. These snowy hills will be emptied in the spring. This cutting wind fallen still. I will relinquish this white-knuckled hold. Open up the promise of being filled. Snowy hills will be emptied in the spring. This cutting wind fallen still. As I relinquish this white-knuckled hold, I open up the promise of being filled. As I relinquish this white-knuckled hold, I open up the promise of being filled. Promise of Being Filled. Such a laid back, gentle song, which is really nice. I think I tend to enjoy ending albums with something that is relaxed, laid back, low key, kind of putting a soft, gentle end punctuation to something that may have done a number of other things. But anyway, The Promise of Being Filled was written in March of 2019. Now, most of these songs, as we've said before, most of them were written in the early stages, February of 2020. So this was written nearly a full year earlier. And it was written during a retreat. I've mentioned in other episodes in the past that I facilitate retreats for teachers and for others. And I was actually with a colleague. We were facilitating a retreat near Bottineau, North Dakota, up really close to the Canadian border, in the Turtle Mountain region, which is just a absolutely beautiful area up there. The International Peace Garden is up there really close as well. Kind of a shared peace garden between Canada and the U.S. But we were up there doing it was supposed to be a kind of a spring retreat, but there was a massive blizzard that March when we got there. It was just starting as we were getting there, and the temperatures. Not only was there a whole lot of snow, the temperatures were just way low, way below zero, and so much of what we did. We tend to like to get out into nature a little bit. We didn't do a whole lot of that on this retreat, but I did have my guitar. It had been requested that we do a little bit of maybe some songwriting and some things like that. So that was a focus as part of the retreat. And this song was one that I wrote during that retreat, not really as part of the songwriting activities that we did, but just kind of on my own. And I did share it at the retreat, but it certainly was influenced by the massive amount of snow and freezing cold that was around us. But we'll take a look at the lyrics and talk a little bit about it. We did as with all the songs on Keys to My Head. It begins with a sound recording. And that sound recording were birds. So this presents itself as a song looking toward spring. Of course, I was in March, a time which most of us consider, the early parts of spring at least, which spring couldn't feel more distant during that particular March with the blizzard we were experiencing. But it does look hopefully with hope toward spring in a realistic way, but also in a kind of a metaphorical way. So the promise of being filled. All alone is not alone anymore once you make peace with yourself. Darkness is not a loss of sight, nor being emptied a loss of wealth. These snowy hills will be emptied in the spring, this cutting wind fallen still. I will relinquish this white-knuckled hold, open up the promise of being filled. So, a couple of themes in the song are being alone, solitude, and darkness. And the paradoxes that are mentioned at the beginning. Being all alone is not alone anymore once you make peace with yourself. Darkness is not a loss of sight, nor being emptied a loss of wealth. So emptiness and darkness and aloneness do not have to be the negatives that we quite often see them as. And then here's the reason why. These snowy hills will be emptied in the spring. There's an emptying that the true spring does, bringing all of that snow into rivulets and creeks to fill up the lakes in that region. This cutting wind will fall still. I will relinquish this white-knuckled hold and open up the promise of being filled. So I remember one time, and I think this is probably where this white-knuckled hold idea came from. I remember a time reading a book, and it was about there was a statement made about fundamentalism, the idea of fundamentalism, whether we're talking about fundamentalist Islam, fundamentalist Christianity, whatever fundamentalism you want to talk about. And the statement was made that it's really not about the specific doctrines. You know, a fundamentalist Christian or a fundamentalist follower of Islam, they embrace that idea, that definition of fundamentalism, saying, I am holding on to the fundamentals, the pure version of my belief system, of my religion. Others have fallen into heresy, but I'm holding on to the pure fundamentals of my system, of my belief system. And what this author said was that that's not really, fundamentalism is not really about the particulars of the belief system. It's about how tightly they are held. It's a white-knuckled grip. And a white-knuckled grip tends to come out of fear. Fear of losing. Fear of having already lost, and I can't admit it. Fear of having all that I have believed in, all that I have done, all that I have espoused to be shown as false. And so the response to that, a typical human response, is to grab tighter and to grip with a death grip, a white-knuckled death grip on the thing that you are so fearful of losing. And we do that with aloneness. Sometimes we put a white-knuckled death grip on another person because we're so fearful that they will leave us that we give them a death grip of a squeeze, which almost ensures that they will. We're so fearful of losing whatever it is we have that we value, that we put a death grip on it to try to hold on to it rather than holding it loosely. So the problem with that, and the problem, I think, with fundamentalism in any form, whether we're talking about religious fundamentalism or even maybe political fundamentalism, is it does not leave any room for growth. All you can do with that death grip is hold on to the shreds of whatever's left. You cannot build new. You cannot open yourself up, as the song says, to being filled with new knowledge, new understanding, new ways of seeing, new ways of solving the problems, new ways of framing the issues. You cannot receive those if you've got a death grip on what has been, what you are afraid, fearful of losing. And I think, I think the context of the blizzard during that retreat put me in mind of that. I mean, when you're fearful. I mean, we were warm. We stayed warm in the house. We just really could not go out, and at certain times, our vehicle that we were in, actually just wouldn't start. It was so stinking cold outside, and so there was some fear that when we came to the end of the retreat time, would we even be able to get in the car and get it going and get home? And so there was a sense of white knuckles holding on, and then my encouraging myself to let that go, to be okay. It's going to be okay. I will be in a better place to see the solutions to the problem if I am not putting a death grip on the situation. And I think that's the fundamental idea here. That response, that fear-based response, puts me in the wrong part of my brain to think openly and creatively and to see solutions that may present themselves because I am just holding on for dear life. So go on to the next section. Silence has a language no tongue could ever speak, holds a wisdom gentle to the ears. All the chasing, all the grasping, all the noise only awaken all the fears. These snowy hills will be emptied in the spring, this cutting wind fallen still. I will relinquish this white-knuckled hold, open up the promise of being filled. So silence is oftentimes not where we look for wisdom, for answers. In fact, when we get desperate in an argument, in a fight, sometimes it seems like we think more verbiage is going to solve things, and a louder verbiage, yelling, pulling out all the stops on the language, making the noise. But there is a wisdom and a language in silence that is, as it says, gentle to the ears, and it's beyond the spoken answers. And I do believe that. I think taking a breath and stopping and being silent and listening and calming myself and centering myself quite often brings the answers that all the shouting and all the anger and all the noise in the world is just not going to bring. All the chasing, all the grasping, all the noise only awaken all the fears. When I get into that, the chasing, the grasping, the noise, because I'm desperate, because I'm losing something, I'm fearful, it only awakens more fear. It perpetuates that fear. It places me into more fear, which in itself spirals me into more chasing, more grasping. And I suppose maybe that's what the point of a retreat is, to set yourself apart and quiet yourself for a time, to be able to think clearly. So we have the instrumental verse in there, just a gentle, we've got the nylon stringed guitar, of course, as the main instrument, so that instrumental verse then comes in, and then we wrap it up with the refrain. These snowy hills will be emptied in the spring, this cutting wind fallen still. As I relinquish this white-knuckled hold, I open up the promise of being filled. As I relinquish this white-knuckled hold, I open up the promise of being filled. Now, I guess I would say, and that word promise means something, I think. I'm a firm believer, and I've spoken about this before. I've written songs about it before. I believe We fundamentally live in a graceful universe, a graceful creation, with a graceful creator. Benevolence is the nature of this world. That is really hard to hold on to and to know in the face of so many difficult things, socially, politically, all of the things, the poverty, the inequity. I fundamentally believe, though, that our nature, and by our, I mean all of us, including this planet, our nature is to nurture each other, to be benevolent with each other, to be together in community, not fundamentally in competition, not fundamentally survival of the fittest, but a family, a single organism that nurtures itself and nurtures every part of itself. We lose sight of that. We lose track of that, and in our sense of independence, we run contrary to that. I become fearful. I do things that are damaging to those around me and damaging to the planet, damaging to our society, and I think I'm gaining ground for myself, and I'm not, because I can't damage everything and everyone around me without damaging myself. Because I'm part of it, and you are part of me, and we're all part of something much larger. So the answer, I suppose, in this song is to relinquish that white-knuckled grip, relinquish that fear. Know that I can enter into some silence, enter into some breathing, and that we can and will find the solutions to the problems without me chasing, grasping, trying to strangle them out of whomever is around. And I think I think more than anything else, that's what music. That's what I want my music to be something that that lets go of the white-knuckled hold, that opens up, that says there's something good here. There's something good. If I am open to it, it'll come, and we can experience it together as a community, as a people, as a family. We can experience growth, solutions to inequities, solutions to fighting and arguing and war and all of that. And I feel like music does that well, can do that well, if we let it. So there we go. That was the final episode in our series on all the songs from Keys to My Head by Scott Simpson, released in January of 2021. Love for you to pick that up. You can catch all of my music, find links to everything, and through the lyrics at scottsimpsonmusic.com. And of course, if you're on Spotify or Apple Music, iTunes, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Deezer, whatever you listen to stream your music on, you can find Scott Simpson, and you, as the artist Scott Simpson, you can find certainly this latest album from Scott Simpson, Keys to My Head, and stream away. I appreciate you joining me. I'm super excited because our next episode, we are going to launch into my newest project, which is my band with my wife, Nana Papa. Music for kids and for the adults who love them. we're in the process, in the midst of releasing singles. We're going to start talking about those singles from Nana Papa in our next episode, and probably do maybe a 12 to 14 episode series on Nana Papa music. So super excited to get into that. I hope you'll join me for that. So thank you for joining me for this one, and we will see you next time on the next Dancin Moon Songcast. Stay tuned and be well.